The Sports Talk, where all opinions are heard, but not always accepted. For the fans who live and die by their teams. For the fans who stay up for those extra innings. The city where going to work isn't just another phrase. Where we live and die by the next swing of the bat. Die-hard fans hate us and love us. But feelings have never been held back. You are listening to Detroit Sports Talk with Brett and JT. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is JT Smellick.
And my name is Brett Hebel.
And welcome back to another episode of DST, Detroit Sports Talk. And we got a bunch of fun topics that we're going to be getting into today, but we got some exciting news to share with you to start this episode. It is the Pistons making a relevant move. Brett, want to break this down for us?
Sure. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard by now, but the Pistons took advantage of the Celtics and traded Marcus Morris for Avery Bradley and a 2019 second-round pick. So right out the gates, I love this trade. I really do. And with that trade happening, we also renounced the rights to KCP, making him an unrestricted free agent, which basically means we're not getting him back. Which, again, I also love. Did I like KCP? I did. He's a streaky shooter, but has a room for improvement. He's only 24 years old. And he's a pretty good defender. Not great, but he's not bad either. But at the same time, he wanted max money, which is about $20 million a year. And I think that is ridiculous for a player like KCP. And to get Bradley, who's basically a better version of KCP, he can shoot the three better, he can shoot better in general. He's got no attitude problems whatsoever, and he has the caliber of one of the best defenders in the league. He can make the all-defensive team every year. He got snubbed from it this past year, but he still plays amazing defense. So again, I think this is a perfect trade. We got rid of Marcus Morris, which we lose some grind and grit with Morris, but to get Avery Bradley in return, I think it's worth it. Plus, we got a second-round pick for 2019.
Yeah, we definitely need better shooters overall. That's what the team needs.
Yeah, we finished dead last in three-point shooting last year.
I mean, that's the thing that needs to be addressed first. And I feel like you got rid of Morris, who's a streaky three-point shooter, KCP, who's a streaky three-point shooter, which I don't feel like they're even losses in my opinion, because we'd be we need to get better. The team needs to get better all around. So I feel like everywhere needs to get upgraded, which means if we lose KCP, I'm fine with struggling for a little bit in that position if that means I'm not stuck with him for 4 or 5 more years. I need someone who's better than that. I need all-star caliber players. He was never in the conversation of being an all-star. And in my opinion, Avery Bradley, as you said, is better than KCP in almost every facet. And you hear Kyrie Irving, who is probably one of the hardest guys to guard in the league, hands down with those ball handling skills, he has to be top 3. And for him to come out and say Avery Bradley is probably the hardest guy that has ever guarded me. He stays on him the entire time. If you watched it during the finals, he was on him left and right every chance he got. He's really good at not drawing the fouls, and which is actually a really impressive thing to see nowadays, considering that any movement basically can get you a foul. So for Avery Bradley to be able to guard Kyrie, who has those insane handles so closely, that's definitely an exciting thing to watch. And I was so worried that we weren't going to see a big trade like this year from the Pistons. And so to start it out like this is definitely an exciting thing to see. And it really gives me hope, and it really reassures me that Stan Van Gundy is the guy for Detroit.
Right, and like you said, I like this trade. Like you said, KCP, I don't want to be stuck with him the next 4 or 5 seasons. Yeah, he's got great potential, but we've already seen kind of this core together isn't going to work. It's
exactly.
Not. If you stay the same, it's not going to get you anywhere. You got to be able to make moves and try to get better. And if it means losing out on guys with a lot of potential but gaining somebody great in return, then it's worth it.
Exactly. And you know, his contract, Avery Bradley's contract does expire at the end of the year, so it is a gamble. But you know, it's the same gamble you take with Reggie Jackson when you made that trade. So I mean, it's not something that we haven't seen before, and it's something I'm willing to take.
And plus, we also have the leg up on Avery Bradley because I think we can offer him more money or more years.
Yes, we can.
And plus, we can kind of, he'll be with us the whole year, so we can kind of talk him into it.
We can make good relationships with the roster. It'll be a good thing for us here.
Right, and I think he has the ability, Avery Bradley alone has the ability to kind of bring this team together. He brings that fire and passion. He's not an outspoken guy or anything. He's more of a mellow, calm guy, but the team can kind of rely on him when you need to. He brings that fire and passion in a way that you want. So I think he can kind of bring out the best in Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond, and maybe we can see this team kind of put it together and get a higher than an A seed in the Eastern Conference.
I definitely am excited to see that. And one thing I'm really happy with the KCP trade, it's a sign to me, something that I'm always scared about, that I feel it was a fear of mine with Andre Drummond, and I'm super happy that KCP got traded just for this one reason. I'm not going to be the LA Clippers. I don't want to be that team. I said it for 3 straight years about the Clippers. That core needed to get traded. Sure, you had a lot of guys. This reminded me of KCP, right? You got a really good, 3 guys. Drummond, Reggie, KCP. Let's say those 3. Okay, that's our big 3. And I was so worried that none of them were going to get touched because it was the best they had. They were scared of upgrading. They thought, okay, 1 more year with this team. 1 more year with this team. Let's do it. So the KCP trade shows me that no one's untouchable, or not trade, but getting rid of him shows me that we are committed to getting better, and we want to get better, no matter what the means is that has to happen. So I mean, it's definitely an A+ in my book, and I mean, it shows me that we will get better, and we're not going to get stuck with the purgatory team that's going to just sit there until one of them decides to leave.
Right. I give the trade probably about an A-. The only reason why I don't give it an A+ is because we're not guaranteed to re-sign him. Exactly. If we re-sign him, A+ for sure. I think getting rid of, like you said, we would have had no choice if we wouldn't have made this trade. We would have had to re-sign KCP, because then you would have had to put Langston Galloway in the starting lineup and at shooting guard and have Luke Kennard already come off the bench, and that's just to go from KCP to Langston Galloway and Luke Kennard, to me, that's a downgrade.
That is, yeah.
And so to get Avery Bradley in return and not have to worry about getting KCP, giving him all this money. I mean, we already have a mess of contracts with Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, and John Lure. And if you throw KCP and give him max money, now you're really screwed. You can't get anybody else for the next until those contracts are up. You can't get anybody else on this team, and that basically means you're stuck with this core for the rest of the 4 years.
I 100% agree with you. I'm also going to go with the A-. I think that's a pretty good assessment of the deal, just because of the gamble with the 1 year, and because we kind of have to see another trade or another pickup. We'll be better in the long run, but for this year, we're going to see an interesting roster component at the start of the season. Who's going to be your starting 5? But yes, overall A-. I need better shooters. I can't live with these streaky shooters anymore. Morris, he's fine. He's a streaky shooter, though. KCP's a streaky shooter. So A-, 100% agree. Moving on, we have a fun topic that I want to get into, Brett, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Me and my roommates at college, we actually came up with this last 2 months ago. It was during the NBA playoffs when we were not having any fun watching any of it because it was all boring as could be, and we thought of a way to make it much more exciting. So you tell me your thoughts on this. I'm going to break it down for you. So normally it's Eastern and Western Conference, 8 teams in each, and then seeded 1 to 8, and then 1 playing 8, 1 playing 8. But let's put it like this. Let's combine the 2 conference. There's still 2 separate conferences, but when they play when you go for the playoff seeding, you rank them 1 through 16, and then you have them go head to head, 1 to 16, 2 to 15, 3 to 14. And how I laid this out was, for tiebreakers, it was going to be your conference record followed by your head-to-head matchup followed by the division. So for me, let me break these matchups down for you, and you tell me if this is more exciting than what we had going on last year. And this is just the first round, mind you. It could get much more interesting down the stretch.
Sure.
Okay. Warriors and Bulls for the first series. That I don't think that's too interesting. That just because it's the Warriors, blowout completely. But then we have Spurs and Blazers, Rockets and Pacers, Celtics and Bucks, Cavs and Grizzlies, the Raptors and Hawks, Clippers and Thunder, Jazz and Wizards.
All right, so I actually really like this idea. I know we talked about this during the NBA Finals and NBA Draft. This is an idea I think should seriously be considered, for the one reason of we all know the two biggest teams in each conference are the Warriors and Cavs. We saw it this year in the playoffs. We've seen it the last couple years in the playoffs, but this year we saw it the most clearly. The Warriors didn't lose a single game all the way up to the NBA Finals, and the Cavs lost one on a 3-point buzzer beater against the Celtics. But other than that, they made it all the way to the NBA Finals without losing a game. And to see all these teams, especially in the East, the terrible East with a very weak set of teams, especially in the lower. You basically got 4 teams in the East, and the rest are just garbage. And so for the Cavs to play those garbage teams, it's not even something I want to watch personally. So to have it combine them all, I think you get more interest from fans and even players, in my opinion, by having. You can have Eastern teams play Western Conference teams in the first round, which makes it for more compelling matchups. And because sometimes you don't get to see these matchups all the time throughout the season because of the different conferences. So I feel like in a 7-game series, watching some of these Eastern and Western Conference teams go up against each other would be very interesting.
I would have a blast getting to watch like the Jazz and Wizards. I think that's an interesting matchup, and I honestly couldn't tell you who I would think would win because the Jazz play such great defense.
Right, and plus, I mean, those are matchups you really don't get to see very much.
Exactly. You'll never see them play each other in the finals.
And especially in a 7-game series.
Exactly. And then like Celtics and Bucks, that would be a really exciting series too. And then you could see something like the Spurs and the Rockets. That'd be an interesting one. You could see the Cavs playing the Blazers. That'd be a lot more fun game. And let me tell you things that I think this would actually fix. I think this would solve a large portion of NBA problems, starting with player resting. Players are, as LeBron James has been doing, they are resting throughout the regular season because LeBron doesn't care about where he's seated in reality, because he knows that he's going to smash all these teams that he plays against. But let me tell you this. Let's say you're the Cavs, right? I would much rather get the 1 seed and play the Bulls than have to play, if I was the 2 seed as the Spurs, and have to play the Blazers.
Right, because you're going East versus West, and The West, especially this upcoming season, the West is more stacked than it's ever been.
Exactly. So, I mean, every game would be a lot more important during the regular season instead of being scared of having to play the Cavs, who they have to play for their first series. They played the Pacers. So, I mean, okay, that's kind of an interesting matchup.
But only because of Paul George.
Exactly, that's about it. But if you put it in the 16 teams, if you're one of the lower seeds, you've got to be fighting to get those upper seeds, because it's going to be a grind throughout this playoffs with all the teams you have to play against. There's going to be a lot more talent you're facing throughout every series instead of playing against, the Hawks or the Raptors, who just have an okay team with no star. You'd be playing against a lot more stars in the league. And so I feel like it would stop player resting. Every game would matter. And then you wouldn't see the same finals every year. I honestly believe that. You would not see Warriors and Cavs. You want to know why? When you're playing a lot better teams, you're going to get a lot more tired. You're not sitting through all the blowout wins. And then there's going to be a moment where a team slips up and all of a sudden it becomes a series because LeBron's getting tired. He's not getting to rest those minutes. As we saw in the finals, LeBron was getting worn out towards the end. His fourth quarter stats showed it. So with that happening, I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but it gives the chance of not expecting the Warriors and Cavs at the finals every year. It'd be a lot more exciting matchups.
Right, because I think if you had in this year's Eastern Conference, it was the Cavs and the Celtics, and the Cavs got by 4-1. Exactly. The one loss, like I said, came from a 3-point buzzer beater. I think the Cavs would have a lot more difficulty. I honestly could see the Spurs beating the Cavs in a conference finals matchup. So honestly, I think this would be a great, especially for this up-and-coming season, because as I said, the West is more stacked than it's ever been, and the East is more weak than it's ever been. I think this would be a very interesting thing to propose, and maybe just give it a try. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I think it's definitely a great idea.
I 100% agree. And you know what this would also fix is the LeBron-Jordan comparison, because everyone wants to talk about LeBron going to the finals 8 times. But here's the thing is, who has he faced in his conference that Jordan had to face? Jordan had to go against the bad boy Pistons and then the classic Lakers. So, I mean, those are two very tough franchises that were close to being in their primes, compared to nowadays where you face a 5'8" point guard, and you face there's no one else in the conference that you face really. I mean, if you want to say like Dwayne Wade, but I mean, okay. So besides that, I mean, it would fix the Jordan comparison in the fact that if LeBron if LeBron was in the 16 seed dream matchups that I'm proposing to you, and he made it 8 straight times, you know what? I would actually say that's pretty impressive. But compared to what I normally see is, all right, you put the Rockets in the Eastern, they'll go 8 straight times. If you put that Clippers team that can't seem to get past the second round, they'll
make it past the second round almost every time.
Yeah, they'll go pretty far every time. And then you could Spurs finals 8 straight years, guarantee it. If you switch the Cavs and the Spurs, so I mean, that's how I see it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a great idea, and just for me personally, coming from a fan's perspective, I know, like I said, from some of these first round matchups, especially in the Eastern Conference, it's like I don't even want to watch them. It's not even worth it, especially when you got a team like the Cavs versus a team like the Pacers, when you know it's going to be a 4-0 series victory for the Cavs with each win coming at blowouts. So for this to be imposed, I think it would make me as a fan want to actually watch these games more, because if you have teams from the East facing the teams from the West, really, if you look at it, there's all 8 seeds in the West. There isn't really a bad seed. Every team is tough.
Yeah,
but if
like
you go
the Blazers were the 8th seed, and
Right, it wouldn't be a walk in the park to play them like the Pacers were for the Cavs. Do I think the Cavs would still beat the Blazers? Absolutely, but I think the Blazers could steal at least one game, maybe 2.
And then wear them down, and then LeBron's not sitting all the time, and then eventually in the later rounds, it does come down to your team depth, and you're not just sitting on your starters dropping all those points for you. So it becomes a more interesting series. And granted, the Trailblazers did get swept only because they played against the Spurs, so in reality, any other team that's going against the Blazers, that's a pretty exciting series.
Yeah, overall, I really like this idea.
I 100% agree with you. And then you would automatically, I really do think that you would fix player resting, which is a big problem nowadays. But we got to move on to an interesting rivalry that seems to be heating up in the NBA with LeVar Ball, and not just LeVar Ball. I feel like if you take a shot at LeVar Ball, you're taking a shot at the Ball family. So the Ball family and Joel Embiid, who is the Sixers prodigy. So Embiid recently tweeted out, F you LeVar Ball, except it didn't say F you, it said the actual words. And the NBA fined him $10,000 on that comment. Not during the season, he didn't say it in public right to his face or anything. It wasn't at a media press conference. It was on his personal Twitter account. Fined $10,000. LeVar Ball proceeded to make fun of him for it, saying that, he doesn't know how to insult anyone any better. He just has to use curse words. What do you think? What's going on here?
Honestly, I can see it both ways. For the fine part, honestly, I think he was right to get a fine. Do I think it should have been that much? I'm not sure, but money to NBA players is nothing. So at the same time, I can see it. I mean, LeVar didn't say something to him first as far as I'm concerned. So that's where it comes into play for me. I think Embiid, even though it was on his own personal Twitter and it wasn't directly sent to him or anything like that, it was directly intended towards him. And for LeVar not to say anything to him and him just to come out and say that towards LeVar, I think that's Embiid is kind of at fault here. But then LeVar did strike back, but he didn't say anything really bad like that. So I think Embiid is kind of at fault here.
All right. Well, me personally, I think this is complete BS because as far as I'm concerned, it's not the league season. He didn't say it towards another member of the league. It's not like he said it towards LeBron James or anything. And this just cements my feeling of the cupcake league that we're in, where it's as soft as could be. Because I'm like back in the day, Malice at the Palace, stuff like that went down all the time. You know what I mean? And
yeah, but they're trying to prevent that now. They don't want that to happen anymore.
100% agree. But do you think he LeVar Ball is no one. Technically no one. He is a father of players who play in the NBA.
Yep, agreed.
Or a player who is almost in the NBA. He hasn't played a regular season game yet.
Agreed.
So, I mean, that's the same as saying those words to just a random person he got
Right.
into a Twitter argument.
I agree
online.
I agree with that, but at the same time, you still play for the NBA. It's like a job. If you're, let's say you were at a job and you said something like that to a kid who just some random kid, you're still gonna get in trouble at your job.
But it's not like he's like you're right. Okay, I work at KFC. If I said "F you" to a customer, I would get in a lot of trouble. But I'm not at KFC. I'm at home off the clock. And it's my personal account to someone who isn't a customer of my place.
It's different though because the NBA, obviously the NBA and the KFC are way different.
Yes.
The NBA, you're representing the NBA and your team the entire time. Regardless of what you do on your own time, you're still part of the NBA full time.
See, I do agree with you here, just because I had we did a college debate. Okay, it was for my debate or my public speaking class, and we had a panel discussion on Colin Kaepernick and the whole kneeing thing. And for me, someone brought up to me, when is it okay for players to speak their mind about these sort of matters? Because I was against it, and I said you don't do that when you're at your workplace. And I'll stand with it here, and I'm going to stand with it about the football thing. Is if you are not going to media day, and it is not directly affecting me and my team, if it's not about my team and it's not about my sport, then go ahead. Go ahead and say it. You can say whatever you want. And this is just my opinion, of course. But you can say it because that's your freedom of speech, as you are still an American. And if you want to protest the national anthem, or if you want to say F you, LeVar Ball, go right ahead, as long as it's not during my practices, during my media days, during my games. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, see, my opinion is, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that. I can't trash you for that, but in my opinion, I think you're still a product of the NBA. You play for the NBA. When you sign a contract, you're representing that team on your team, and your agent wants you to behave, you know? I mean, yeah, it's your own personal Twitter or whatever, but the thing is, if LeVar would have said something to him first, with like something along those lines of swearing at him or whatever, then I can see it with the retaliation. But at the same time, if you just come out of nowhere, I mean, you can have your own opinion, but keep your opinion not public. Yeah. Don't put your opinion public online for everybody to see. It happened. You've seen it in the NBA before. People say that and they get fined, so you know it's coming.
Yeah.
So you can't get mad. I mean, like I said, money to them is nothing. So for them, it's like, sure, I'll do it and I'll get fined, whatever. I'll do it again if I want to. It's just money.
Yep.
But I think you're still, at the same time, you're still going to get backlash because you still play for the NBA. You still represent the NBA. You got kids looking up to you as role models, and you're acting like that towards other adults that didn't really do anything to you. Just because you don't like the way LeVar Ball comes out. Trust me, I don't like the way LeVar comes out either. I think he's extremely cocky, and I think he's really ridiculous with some of the stuff he says. But I'm not going to go out there on my personal Twitter and say something bad about him just because he acts like that. That's just how he is.
I agree. I can see both sides of it. So, I mean, to each his own. But you know what this is? It's going to create a very exciting matchup when we see the Lakers and the Sixers face off. I mean, because I feel like they're both going to go at each other a little bit and take some jabs. So, I mean, it's definitely heating up to be quite the interesting rivalry that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. I think Lonzo's kind of, because of his dad and the way he's come out, I think is almost kind of must-see TV for most nights, at least for now anyways.
Whether you like him or
until the hype
him.
dies down, you want to see how he does, because you're either on LeVar's side and you want to make sure he does good, or you're against him and then you want to see him do bad, and right when you see him do bad, you want to trash him immediately. So I think LeVar and Lonzo are almost, like I said, must-see TV.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate Lonzo.
No, I respect Lonzo because he doesn't. It's not him doing it.
Yeah. So and I understand where his dad's coming from, because let's be honest here, it worked.
Yeah.
Like, whether we like it or not, because I can't stand him, it worked.
Yep, he got the attention.
He has all the attention he needs. His kids are all talked about. He appeared on Monday Night Raw. I mean,
Yeah, and there's rumors that he's getting his own Facebook TV show.
Yeah, that is going to be coming. And then he's got his shoe brand. He's got his Big Baller brand. I mean, whether we like it or not, what he did as a father worked. And I mean, I can still hate it.
And it's because of us, really.
Yes.
It's the media.
Us talking about right now is creating it.
Right, because the media wanted people to know about this, and it's like, wow, look at this guy. And he created so much hype that he's getting promoted from the media himself.
Yep.
So it's like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And then
did
eventually I'm going to turn it into making money.
Did he say he's better than Jordan? Exact those things. The thing, like...
And whether LeVar thinks so or not,
Yeah.
he knows if I say this, it's going to create hype. So why not say it?
Exactly. So, I mean, I want to see him fail just because I think it would be hilarious that, like, it didn't work. But at the same time, could you imagine if it did work? Like, if he was just that good? Like, better than Kobe, better than Jordan, better than LeBron. Like, if Lonzo was that good, that would be the funniest thing ever when he sits there and goes, I told you.
Yep.
I told you he was going to be. So, I mean, either way, the first season for me, I got to watch. I'm going to be paying close attention to him, and I feel like I wouldn't be too hard with all the coverage he's going to be getting.
Now, me personally, I'm just going to come out and say this now. I've been saying it for a while now. I think Lonzo will be a bust in the NBA. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I think he'll be a bust. He's not going to be a star in this league. I think he'll be a below average player. He'll be a guy that comes off the bench and could maybe knock down some shots, but I really don't think he's going to be anything in the NBA. He's got that weird shot. I mean, it works for him, but I don't think it'll last long term. He doesn't play defense. He's skinny, scrawny. He's not a guy that's going to drive to the lane and muscle through guys like LeBron does. So I think really he's not going to be anything in the NBA.
I think he'll be a solid player. That's it. I mean, like a fine player. Not like he might make the All-Star team maybe a few times.
See, I don't think so at all.
I think 1, maybe 2 years he'll do it. I feel like he'll be a fine player. I feel like he'll have a career and he'll finish. That's it. But, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Brett Hebel with the hot take on Lonzo Ball. He will be a bust. How long do you think he'll be in the league?
I think he'll stick around for a bit. I mean, everybody's going to keep, they don't want to say he's a bust. Obviously, the Lakers, it's like, we're going to keep giving him try after try after try after try because we don't want to say he's a bust. We spent a second-round draft pick on him, and it's going to look even worse when you got that stacked draft class and you got guys that you passed up on, like Jason Tatum and Josh Jackson and De'Aaron Fox, and you could have been, I could have picked one of those guys, and then down the road, if they turn out to be stars or great players in this league, it's like, wow, now you literally look stupid for picking Lonzo Ball. And to me, the Lakers almost had no choice. I mean, they could have picked somebody else, but everybody knew from the day that LeVar said he was going to be a Laker that the Lakers were almost pressured in to picking Lonzo Ball. And I would have been extremely shocked if I saw somebody else's name called by the Lakers that night.
Yep. So the date is July 9th. The time is 2:50, 2017. And you have claimed that he will be a bust.
Yep. And I mean, you could look at, for the Lakers' perspective, number 2 pick a couple of years ago, D'Angelo Russell. Was he a bust yet? No, not really. He's not really considered a bust yet. But has he lived up to what he's supposed to be? Absolutely not. He's not even with the Lakers anymore. They traded him.
Exactly.
He's been a head case, and he's been streaky. He's had some great games, but he's had some terrible games, and overall some pretty bad seasons. And now he's with the Nets, and he's trying to revive his career with the Nets. And if it doesn't work with the Nets, he's going to be a guy that bounces around from team to team and eventually just doesn't even play anymore.
Okay, so I need to get this answer from you because you say he's going to be a bust. What is considered a bust in your mind?
For me, it's what D'Angelo Russell will be in a couple of years if he doesn't pick it up. I think, obviously being a number 2 overall pick and your dad hyping you up saying you're better than Curry, you're better than Jordan, you're better than this, better than that.
So hang on though. So you're telling me his success is also based on what his dad said?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that people have that in their mind already. Yes. I'm not basing it off of that, but people have that in their mind. My opinion of a bust is basically he's not going to... what do you think he's supposed to be with the second-round pick? Just your opinion. Like, what do you think he's supposed to be? Not based off what his dad, just his college career.
I mean, a second-round pick, just because...
Second overall pick.
Or a second overall pick. I don't like to assume he has to be the best because a lot of players aren't because of how little players are in the league. But for him himself, I feel like he would have to be...
Like, do you think he should be a starter? Like, in a couple of years, He should be a starter for a team. He shouldn't be a bench player for his career.
For the second-round pick to be worth it, I mean, you can have high hopes of him being a Hall of Famer one day. But For him to actually be worth it, in my mind, he would have to make the All-Star team 5-6 times. He would have to take the Lakers back to the playoffs and make them like not just the playoffs, but I mean winning playoff games. He would have to win playoff games. That's my main thing. And I mean, he would have to be a max player. I mean, it doesn't have to be a max player, but he has to be talked about as a top 15 player at one point in his career.
Right. So like KCP, for example, he's not a bust. He was a starter. I mean, he's going to be a starter. He's going to be a starter in the league for basically his whole career, and he's got a bunch of potential. But for Lonzo, I think, especially with the Lakers having a bunch of cap space, and next year rumored to have possibly LeBron and Melo and CP3 and Paul George, all of them to come down there to Los Angeles, I think if Lonzo stays on that team, he's going to be a nobody. I mean, he's going to be a bench player. I think, like I said, I think he's got that weird shot. He's, skinny, scrawny. He's not going to drive to the lane. He plays no defense. And, we've seen guys in the league that basically come in and they don't play defense, and it works out like a James Harden. Yeah. But James Harden is, great handles. He can drive to the lane. He shoots the ball great. And, Lonzo still has to live up to that. We saw if you guys watched in the March Madness this past year with UCLA, I mean, he got eaten up by Kentucky's De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Fox, I think, dropped, 39 points or something like that. And Lonzo didn't play any defense, and I think Lonzo scored 6 points.
And that's where I feel like, as we've seen in the NFL a lot, and how I feel with Jabril Peppers, because I don't think he'll do good with Cleveland. I think it would depend on who he got drafted to. And since Lonzo got drafted to a team that's irrelevant, let's say they don't get those future Hall of Famers on their team, right? Then I feel like he won't do that good. I feel like he'll have a terrible career. If he went to someone like Golden State and even Cleveland, I feel like the pressure would be off him a little bit, and it would be a lot easier on him.
So, right, but if you went to those teams, you wouldn't have time to develop. I mean, James
yes.
Harden started off with OKC, and if he would still be with OKC today, he would be nowhere near the player he is today.
Yes.
He developed so much because he went to a Rockets team that was nothing, and he made them into something. He started working his way up, and then once he became a star player, they put guys around him to make him even better.
But see, that's where I agree with you.
So you got to start off small.
Exactly. I wanted to see him get drafted to a better team. Like I want to see Jabril go to the Patriots.
But I'm saying though, you got to start off small. So you got to start off on a team where, you have the ability to come out there on the floor and let's say start or get the minutes, so you can earn this confidence.
But you could earn it with a team like the Cavs or Golden State because they blow out a lot of teams, which means that gives him time to play the game. So I agree. You do have to play meaningful minutes, but I feel like if you're a good player like he's supposed to be, he would be able to do that on those teams.
Just me personally, I think he's going to be a career bench player. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to start unless he starts for a crappy team. I don't think he's going to be anything
he'll start
special.
This year. I think he'll start this year.
Possibly. I think he might. I'm not sure if he will or not, to be honest.
At some point, I think he will. But
I don't think he will to start the season. But like I said, I think he'll be considered a bust. Most people know what a bust means, and once
it comes, yes.
Right. So I think he will be a bust.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to wrap it up for this podcast today. It's kind of been a slow week in sports, not too much going on. So this is where we will end it today. My name is JT Smellick.
And my name is Brett Hebel.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And until next time, this has been DST signing off.